the interesting thing about this one was that as they were watching it, several smaller objects, at least three they felt, flew up to that first object they had witnessed, the largest of all of the objects, and appeared to merge with it. Very, very good report, and I've received many reports like this relatively recently, over the last year, and they seem to be coming from quite qualified witnesses who seem to be serious-minded and quite capable as witnesses. So those are the two reports from today.
Those are that's so timely. I can't believe it. And people are actually seeing multiple objects in the sky and, doing maneuvers that you would not normally see an airplane or any kind of an object do that we would know about, merging together. That's interesting. Very fascinating.
Yeah. And those first two reports from today, again, that's from the 29th of December, 2018, the day we're broadcasting. I'd like to go back to another sighting the day after Christmas, the 26th of December. Two adult witnesses report from Dunkirk, Maryland. I don't know where Dunkirk is. Of course, I know where Maryland is on the east coast of the United States. They witnessed an object hovering in the nighttime sky. It was yellow and pink in color. It gave off two distinct colors. Suddenly, as they were watching it, the object just dropped like a stone out of the sky and disappeared behind their effective horizon. So I mentioned this case as well because we received another report from Maryland for the same time and same date from a woman who's appears to be a highly educated person. I spoke with her over the telephone and was impressed with how clearly she spoke. Well, we're waiting for her report, but something took place on the night after Christmas over the state of Maryland.
And so in other words, what you're saying is you had two call-ins, maybe for about the same object or incident?
That is my impression, but until I've received that second written report, all I can do is share the information I have and not reach any conclusions from it. But it's going to be interesting to compare the two reports once the second one has arrived.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that will be. Boy, and I don't know if you're up to speed. I'm not really up to speed yet on this this giant blue flash over, was it New Jersey or something, that supposedly said a Con Edison power station blew up. But there's been a lot of questions about whether it really was a power station that did that huge flash that turned the night sky almost like daytime out there on the East Coast. I'm very curious to get some more information about that and see what that turns out to be. But there seems to be so many things happening like this, night skies and objects that shouldn't be there, streaking across, or like you said, landing potentially over the horizon.
Yeah, I have just last night was the first report I had about the blue flash. It's been reported from New York City, but of course it could have been New Jersey. I don't have the details yet. I received a query from a news publication. An editor was interested to know if we'd received any reports at the National UFO Reporting Center, and I wrote back, I'm awaiting his response. I told him we hadn't received any reports that I was aware of, but it's going to be interesting to see what they come up with if they can rule out a Con Edison explosion.
Yes.
So,
yeah, they were pretty quick to jump on that as an explanation, although there were some corroborating evidence that showed that it might not have been that to begin with. But I just like to keep abreast on some of those things. That's why we have our members out there and people that are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio, because they'll send us some information as well. So, boy, so the 2018 year for you, Peter. I know you've been busy like nothing else, but what do you think? Is there any kind of a message that you could tell the rest of the folks out there about what has been happening this last year compared to other years, or has it been the same old stuff, or what do you think?
Yeah, I can make a generalization here. The number of reports is down, but one of the things I'm investigating is whether reports that people submit using our online report form are somehow, some way, being siphoned off our site when they arrive here or before they even arrive here. But the one type of report that I find most intriguing, I guess I could cite two now. One is one of the phenomenon I've been talking about now for 6 years, since May of 2012. We and MUFON and other UFO organizations have been receiving a lot of reports of clusters of colored, luminous fireballs. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear such a report is, could they have been so-called sky lanterns or Chinese lanterns? But we're getting so many of these reports that I doubt that all of them can be ascribed to that kind of phenomenon. I think we're dealing with something that is very, very unusual, for which we have no explanation to date. And the other type of report, and I was just about to introduce our audience to two of these reports, one about the fireballs, one about an object. Just recently in Saugus, Massachusetts, this is Christmas morning, 25th of December, 6:18 a.m. East Coast time. Gentleman was out standing with his binoculars waiting for a sighting of the International Space Station. You can track that on a number of websites and anticipate when it's going to be visible from your location on the planet Earth. Well, while he was looking at the ISS as it flew over his location, again, this is Saugus, Massachusetts, just north of Boston, he saw a triangular craft streak through the field of view of his binoculars. Looked, I gather, this is my term, not his, something like a pumpkin seed. And he saw it for, he estimates, only 4 seconds, but it covered the entire field of view of his binoculars in that amount of time, 4 seconds. Very, very unusual sighting. And earlier that evening, this is now the 24th of December, 11:24 p.m. East Coast time in Connecticut, 4 adult observers witnessed 4 extremely bright red-orange spheres, these fireballs that I was alluding to a little bit ago. And we have no idea what these things are, Michael. And if anybody would like to test what I'm saying, I encourage them just to go to the website, ufocenter.com, and start reading some of the reports, the monthly or the daily summary of reports, and just look for the term red, orange, yellow, amber, and gold. And they'll quickly see just how many of this type of report we're getting. It's very unsettling from my vantage point.
Yeah. And, to compare these orange fireballs that go streaking across the sky, sometimes in parallel to the trajectory of the land itself, and not even hitting the ground, is very hard to do with a Chinese lantern or anything like that, which normally just flows very slowly and goes with the wind. So I can imagine. It always reminds me, those kinds of things, about the War of the Worlds original broadcast, where they initially see some anomalous, rockets or blasts on Mars, and all of a sudden they see these fireballs shooting across the sky in the United States as well. You just never know what's going on now. There's so many of those sighting reports. You wonder, if they are landing somewhere, or if they're like just kind of getting ready for some kind of a disclosure or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the statement. There's something unusual about these fireballs, and you're correct, they maneuver, oftentimes they're reported to have maneuvered relative to each other, suddenly jutting or jumping from one position in the formation to another. That is a phenomenon that cannot be ascribed to ambient wind currents or anything along those lines. I just turned to another report. This one is from our neighbors up north from Canada, New Denver, Canada, which is just east of Kelowna, about 100 miles or so. 2 adult observers were standing in New Denver, Canada, looking to the west over a lake, and suddenly they became aware of a brilliantly bright red light hovering over the nearby mountains, the Valhalla Mountains in Valhalla National Park, and the object then proceeded to drop below the distant horizon, below the mountain range or chain of mountains to the west of New Denver. It's a very interesting report. We're getting reports like this all the time, and I have no idea what they are, but they don't appear to me, again, I reiterate, they do not appear to be Chinese lanterns or any kind of phenomenon that can be ascribed to terrestrial technology.
Well, like I said, it's been an interesting 2018. I can't imagine what 2019 is going to look like here if things started out the way they did for 2018. Fascinating stuff. Listen, before we let you go, if people were interested in making some end of the year donations, I think we ought to allow them to have your contact information, so if they are willing to give a couple bucks or more to the National UFO Reporting Center, it sure would be a nice way to end off the year for yourself. So go ahead and give us your contact information and how people could donate if they'd like.
Well, you're very kind to make that gesture, Michael, and let me give out the contact information first for reporting a UFO sighting. If people see something and have seen it within the last several days, they can call the hotline, area code 206-722-3000. That number again is area code 206-722-3000. We've had that number for 44 years. If they would like to submit a written report, and I hope everybody would want to do that if they believe they've seen a UFO, they can submit it using our online report form at ufocenter.com. And for those people in Canada and England, we spell center a little bit strangely. It's ufocenter.com, and we have an online report form there. If they'd like to share a few bucks and help us keep running, they can mail us a check at our P.O. Box, which is P.O. Box 700, the National UFO Reporting Center, P.O. Box 700, and that's in, ironically, Davenport, Washington, and the zip code is 99122. Davenport, Washington, 99122. So thanks for letting me do that, Michael.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you very much for all the wonderful reports that you're able to give us on Night Dreams Talk Radio here this past year. It's been an exciting year, and I just can't wait to see what happens here next year. So you have a much-deserved rest coming to you here, Peter. Hopefully you can get a little time off before the first of the year and rest up and get ready for whatever is going to happen down the road here.
Yeah, I happen to think it's going to be consequential. The nature of the reports has changed in recent years, and we could have a major event at any time in our near future, in my opinion. But I'm one of the very few UFO investigators in the field who cannot see future events clearly. So I make no no